Welcome everyone, it's me Gamerturk and this is the part 2 of my Sword Online Q&A that's capping off 2025. Now I had tons of questions. In part 1 I have answered some of them on Twitter, where the Twitter, on Facebook and here on YouTube as well. You can still go over to the question post. On YouTube especially it's cumbersome, so I recommend going to Twitter and Facebook. Just scroll down a bit, you will see the question thread. I'm literally sorting them chronologically so I am not missing any of them, as long as the question has some depth to answer with. With that out of the way, I do want to take care of YouTube real quick because there's like 60 comments under that post right now. YouTube is kind of the most cumbersome out of all three of them, so I just want to get rid of it entirely because I can't find the post so easily after the fact. That's what we'll be handling first and foremost. And just like I started the previous questionnaire with, the Q&A with, I will just quickly answer. I do expect new Sword Online movie news in 2026, March of 2026 specifically, where Anime Japan is going to be taking place in Japan, of course. Right now, with the amount of merch that's being ramped up by the official accounts, I do expect them to be building up towards something, and obviously the next main event within the next 2 to 4 month period that I'm expecting something to happen, only Anime Japan is there, and it's a good prospect where they can simply give us some news. And if that happens in Anime Japan, we get some news about the upcoming SAO movie that we have heard absolutely nothing about in the past 3 years, then yes, we may indeed get that movie towards the end of fall or winter of 2026-2027. With that out of the way, let's start with our Q&A. First question is from Polski. He really tried hard asking something that is not related to Pokemon, so at least he came up with one before switching over to Pokemon. Do you think Reki will actually end SAO someday? And that may be like a joke question, but it is very much a concern right now. Reki Kawara currently has 4 different stories, well technically 5 if you count Progressive as a separate thing, that's been ongoing for, well, 2 of them for over 2 decades now. We have not seen him actually complete a story. So this question is very much a concern, especially for Axel World and main series SAO fans, where the series seemingly has been dragging on and creating like this sort of never-ending bloat to the main conflicts that the series has. They have to end at some point. Like, I don't think it's gonna be like an Isolator situation when it comes to SAO or Axel World. They will end, but because those 2 are the main moneymaker series, they're also a bit reluctant. Reki or the other stakeholders, let's say Miki, Kadokawa and the like, I'm sure they're a bit skeptical about ending the series to begin with. If Demons' Crest with the upcoming anime can get to some serious relevancy, I feel like that will be a lot of confidence for both Axel World and SAO as well to actually get the plot rolling and finalizing the series in a satisfying manner. And that's not a bad thing, the series ending. If it's ending with a satisfying final, I think that's the best thing we can hope for, and it's not gonna happen within the next 5 years anyway. So if you're like in this SAO or Axel World craze, do not worry too much about it. That's still a ways to come, for like 10 years maybe, knowing Reki. But it's a good thing if the series can be properly finalized. And we have not seen that from Reki just yet in the past over 2 decades really. As for his second question, a semi-serious one, do you think Moushold could be a good choice for Kirito, Asuna, Yui, all 3 of them as a team? If you don't know Moushold, it's basically a mice type Pokemon that is multiple Pokemon actually, that's in a group. I hate them in Pokemon Go because they have like these 3 or 4 different variants and I can't be bothered to collect all of them. But as a concept, I do agree, it may be a good choice. But you know, I'm not a fan of Moushold. Next up, we have Armadan Prakas, who asks, should SAO have implemented magic like incantations, or should I just focus on sword art, so weapon skills? I think the way it is just fine. The focus of SAO, I'm imagining you're specifically asking about Aincrad, so the original Sword Online. And I think the way it's implemented is perfectly fine in my opinion. You know, magic would have diluted things quite a bit, which is actually what we got in ALO, but ALO is incredibly more varied in comparison as well, so the setting kind of constitutes this as well. Whereas the original SAO, that's kind of going with that medieval vibe, very much grounded on the floor without much acrobacy going on. The enemies, again, they're always very approachable to you. I think the way SAO handled it is perfectly fine. I still feel like some of the things Progressive did, just to get things a little bit more varied in SAO, strayed way too far from the core, especially with Neza's chakram, or, you know, if you look at the movies with Mito's chain scythe to reach farther places. I feel like they created these extremely specific mechanics that only a single person can realistically handle, and that's not an aspect I like that Progressive has introduced into the series. It was always this fair environment. It's brought up multiple times that Kayaba has, while a villain, yes, he has always been fair to the players inside the world. Having life-critical things hanging on a thread by a very precise, very specific and explicit weapon or attack type just to be able to handle it, I think that was going a bit too far already for the setting that SAO was. So I hope that answers the question. I hope I interpreted your question correctly. Next up, Mutasina asks, they are a very frequent commenter here on the channel. I know there's not much info for Echoes of Aincrad other than the trademark, and for those who don't know, click on the icon on the top right for you to check the little video I have on what Echoes of Aincrad is. I personally expect it to be the next SAO mobile game that's in development. We have found out about it due to a trademark filing, but with the way Fractured Daydream has been pretty much stale in terms of content, nowadays I think it may as well be the next main console game as well. We'll have to wait and see. We simply have no official information on that. Your hope for how the game would look like? Do you think the game will be 3D turn-based game or different gameplay and return to 2D sprites? And do you think SAOP characters like Kismel and Morte would appear? Because based on its names, it seems the game will be Aincrad focused. For the latter part, I am completely on board with what you're suggesting. Definitely think Kismel would appear, Kismel specifically. Morte... The thing about Morte and the other early Laughing Coffin members, progressive movies are kind of a thing of the past at the moment, so I doubt they will be like super hype characters. I do think they will be included, however, whatever the game will be, I don't think they will be like a main focus of sorts. As for the gameplay style, in my opinion, I think they may go with a 2D style. First off, let me say this, the mobile market is quite different nowadays compared to back when Integral Factor had established itself. I don't think SAO mobile games have the ambition, the budget, or the scope to be able to challenge the likes of Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, or whatever else that is available right now on your phone. So I think going with a 2D sprite-based game is definitely the right call for SAO mobile games. It has the charm, it looks clean, and when you go with 3D, let's be real, Integral Factor is not the highest visual quality out there. Variant Showdown was a significant upgrade, but oh my god, if your phone could run it, you were kinda lucky. I think 2D is a very safe bet. In terms of the game style, I genuinely don't know. It's all up in the air because I feel like the gameplay style itself is rarely the focus with these things. I feel like it's more of an aesthetic choice that carries these games, and gameplay is just an excuse to get people to engage with whatever hamster wheel we're gonna have this time around. So that would be my answer. Hopefully that is satisfying, Mutasina. Mike the Idol asks, he's not exactly known for it, but I'd say Kirito is decently intelligent. What would you say was his best display of it across all media, or a display that didn't exactly make sense? I feel like we have plenty of instances where he shows his intellect, his ability to think on the fly, find solutions, things outside of the box. With the anime, most of those kinda end up being interpreted as like ass pulls for lack of a better term, because there is no real time to elaborate how that thought process is evolving. In the light novels, it's always very explicit. It's almost to the extent where Reki is spoon-feeding you the fact that, hey, Kirito is going through all this thought process and effort and you know, brainstorming to get through this problem, which I like a lot. That's what makes light novels a lot more engaging for me as well. But with the anime, you know, all of that inner thoughts, naturally they go away. That's not the fault of the anime, that's more of a medium thing. But, you know, the engaging with the console shows his technical capability to actually use a command line. It's not even all that complicated, just literally using a command terminal. But I feel like one of the better showcases of his intellect, his ability to think on the fly, it's a lot of the fights in Alicization during the Alicization Rising portion throughout the Central Cathedral, especially the 4 whirling blades, you know. I think the 4 whirling blades were a great dynamic. This is not featured in the anime, it's just Kirito just wheezes past through them in 10 seconds, but there is an actual fight in the light novels where the 4 whirling blades, they can only use single hit sword skills. However, as there are 4 people, they're basically chaining their sword skills back to back to back to create these pseudo higher sword hit count sword skills. And Kirito is basically using this fact that they are following up on each other, coming from behind, to make them stumble upon each other, and that's how he defeats the 4 whirling blades before fighting Fanatia. It's quite a fun fight, and I feel like that's one of the better cases of him showing his intellect and ability to think on the fly. Megawatts asks, what are your thoughts on the state of the series going forward in the future? Do you think we'll get into Intelligence War? Of course we'll get it, of course we'll get it. It's just, it may take a bit longer. The series has to deal with a lot of different factors right now. We have the Demons' Crest being the focus right now to kickstart that anime that's recently been announced from Reki. So that will continue to be a focus of Reki for a little while longer. And as I said back in the first question actually, until Demons' Crest kinda establishes itself as a household name, I don't feel like Axel World or SAO can ramp things up in the long run. So they're gonna have to remain this kinda bloated, that's my personal criticism, kinda not exactly progressing, kinda stretching the story a bit so it doesn't really come close to conclusion kinda thing, exactly as I've been doing with the word salad right now. They want to keep SAO and Axel World at their relevance. However, with the way things are going, that's kind of the reason why the relevance is eroding as well. So we definitely need to wait and see what comes out of Demons' Crest right now. That's kind of the critical factor that's going to be affecting SAO and Axel World, both positively and negatively, because of the priority shifts, whichever way it goes. There's going to be benefits to the series, there's going to be negatives to the series, and you know, we can talk about that once we get to that point, because the way things branch out, it's gonna take a lot to cover every single track. Tasty Tango asks, do you think we'll ever see Sylvie from Unleash Blading again? For those who don't know, Sylvie was a Dark Knight character who was introduced in the mobile game Unleash Blading in its, I think it was the final year of service, during the story that was meant to be a sequel to the Moon Cradle adaptation that they had. It is non-canon, so she is exclusively an Unleash Blading character. However, in terms of being able to see her again, I am not sure. Edith was an incredibly popular character. That's why we kept seeing her in other games, console games first, and then made her jump to the main canon as well. There aren't really characters from the games that have become as popular as Edith has. Sylvie, definitely not among them, being the character introduced during the death phase of Unleash Blading, sadly. So with that said, I have to say, please don't hold your breath for it. It's not like it's impossible for her to ever show up, but I think it's pretty damn unlikely. Overpowered J, another regular here on the channel. First question, do you think you could solo the Laughing Coffin if you are high enough level? You can do anything if you're high enough level. Kirito explained it very well during the Shirika episode. It's a game of numbers. If you're high enough level, yes, absolutely. Maybe they can cause you a lot of trouble with their paralysis, poison, and all those kinds of damage over time gimmicks that are technically percentual. But again, if you are high enough level, who cares? You'll have the resistances, you'll be able to take care of it. So that's an easy question, as long as you don't limit me. Aside from KOB, what's your favorite guild in SAO? We don't know a lot of guilds in SAO, so I'm gonna go either with Furin Kazan or Egil's Bro Squad. I think those are the best choices, you know? Furin Kazan, Bro Squad. They're basically the staples. They are small-scale guilds, very wholesome. It's not like those large army DKB ALS kind of situation. Would you be like Kirito and be a solo player, or would you be in a guild at all if you had the opportunity for it? Generally speaking, I would tend to playing solo, but I would definitely be a part of a small guild that's consisting of friends. That is generally how I play MMORPGs anyway, so that would definitely be my way to go. Jose Hernandez Mendez asks, will there be another DLC for Fractured Daydream that'll have Ronye and Tiese as new characters? This is all an assumption from me, of course, but I'm gonna go ahead and say a clear no. I'm sorry, but the way things are right now with Fractured Daydream, I am imagining with Season 6, we're just gonna receive an announcement for end of support. So I don't think we're gonna have any kind of DLCs in the future, very much like right now, Season 5. And at most, we're gonna get like 2 or 3 ALO characters, ALO variants of characters that already exist in the game from that first mission in the store at exorbitant prices. Until future news or any kind of signs that development for Fractured Daydream is in fact continuing, that is currently my stance on the game. Valor Oni asks, I'm way too late for this. Should I still play Variant Showdown? Yes, you are very late for that, because while we have the offline version, it is inaccessible if you don't have an account and have an account transfer already set up back from the online version. Or Integral Factor. Integral Factor I can always recommend. Two of the best things about Integral Factor that keeps it going is the fact that, one, it doesn't really have a power creep because it does not have rankings. Sure, the skills are getting better and better and more powerful over the years. It's been up for 8 years. There is a power scale that is clearly going up. However, number two in combination with that is that it's a very story-driven game. Because it's a very story-driven game, the story is designed to be accessible all around. So, regardless of whether you have the latest and most powerful skills or skills from the first or second year of the game, sure, first and second year may kind of exhaust you a bit, but even if you have generally old skills available, the game maintains to be incredibly free-to-play friendly. I always recommend Integral Factor. I know it's a bit of a hurdle that it has an 8-year-long story right now. It kind of looks like it has too much of a backlog to go through because, 8 years of stories, but don't think of it as a backlog. It's just stories for you to take your journey into. I think that's a good way to think about it, and I can always recommend Integral Factor no matter how late you are. There is so many questions about Fractured Daydream and what I expect next DLCs to be, whether they can pull from other alternate universes. I already answered it. I don't think we're getting anything anymore unless we start getting some signs that the development is continuing. I'm just gonna sneak this in here without a question, and we'll not talk about Fractured Daydream future DLC questions again. Sialm Sky asks, do you prefer the Gameverse story or the anime? I prefer the light novels. Most of the time. There are times I prefer the Progressive movies, the changes it did, the things it added. I still think Progressive movies were the best piece of SAO content we got in anime form, with parts of it being better than the original light novel. Touching some things from a decade ago to nudge them into a better direction. I think that was one of the things they did really, really well. Are Kirito from the Gameverse and the anime different? Kinda, sorta, depends on what you define as different, really. One of the clearest examples is the fact that the Gameverse never had the piss eyes from the anime. Kirito never had his liver disease in Virtual Worlds, so technically speaking, Kirito never even once used any kind of proto-incarnation either compared to his main series counterpart. And of course, when it comes to the vibes, overall vibes, let's say, between the characters. The Gameverse Kirito is a lot more of a unsuspecting idiot. And the girls are a lot more shameless. So that kind of works in conjunction with how different Kirito is and how different the other characters are portrayed. So that technically speaking, yes, in both cases, I'd say he is significantly different. What do you expect from the future of SAO game franchise after Fractured Daydream and the closure of variant Showdown? As I said, I'm pretty sure Echoes of Aincrad is the next mobile title that we're gonna hear about sometime during 2026. Again, maybe Anime Japan could be a place we can get some surprises there. But I say 90% Echoes of Aincrad is the next mobile game, 10% it is the next console game. I don't think we will return to the Gameverse when it comes to console games. We may have another standalone game that's just having a lot of fun with what it can do freely. And whenever we end up getting Unital Ring anime, that's when I think the Gameverse is gonna come back with a Unital Ring game. Koala asks, okay, it's harder to tap read more with the left hand. Oh my god, why are phones getting large? Oh, 15 questions, mate! Koala, are you Neo's alt account? Like, come on. Okay, lightning round to answer all of these questions. When do you think the Unital Ring arc will end? Not within the next 5 years. We still don't have a clear end point for Unital Ring, and Unital Ring we expect it to fade into the Interintelligence War, similar to how the Human Realm arc of Alicization faded into War of Underworld. Whichever arc will be next after Unital Ring, what will be the final arc of Sword Online? Currently, based on what's been said by Reki in very vague terms, it's gonna be the Interintelligence War. How many line novel volumes do you think SAO Progressive will have? How many volumes? I am not sure. Chances are it's gonna end on floor 25, however, and with the way things are going, after the L4 campaign is over and after we cover floor 10 as well afterwards, L4 is gonna end on floor 9, I expect we're gonna start having floor skips in the light novel as well, just to get it over to floor 25 for that ending, which is where Kirito and Asuna go their separate ways. Can we be sure that the author for Alternative GGO will return to write more GGO after the Unital Ring arc finishes? He doesn't need to wait until the end of Unital Ring because he can just create side stories or, you know, add stories in between to the previous contents. But for now, in terms of going future, yes, he is kind of sort of locked out by the existence of Unital Ring. And after Unital Ring is over, or maybe, you know, some kind of big change happens within the world that allows him a clear cutoff point, then he can start dealing with his own version of the early periods of Unital Ring. How are the chances of Yempress licensing Gourmet Seekers and Mystery Labyrinth for an English license? Very likely. They don't have much SAO content to go through at this point, and I feel like they will be the next. They even covered Clover's Regret, so very, very likely. Are there multiple volumes coming for Gourmet Seekers and Mystery Labyrinth? Gourmet Seekers, if I remember correctly, has 2 volumes of light novels right now, and it kind of sort of can continue, but I think I haven't read either of them, by the way. I'm just talking out of general knowledge. I feel like Mystery Labyrinth was literally a one-off thing, because that was a very concrete story focusing on a single mystery. Of course, with more mysteries, there can be something, but I don't think it was intended to be a multi-volume series. Gourmet Seekers Volume 1, for example, ended with something of a teaser at the end in comparison. How is the ending of each light novel of Demons' Crest? I mean, do every volume end on massive cliffhangers? I have not read Demons' Crest. I have no intentions to read Demons' Crest based on Reki's current writing style for the past couple of years, because I'm pretty sure in time Demon's Crest has a high likelihood of devolving into this never-ending bloat with slogging adventures and all those kinds of stuff that both Axel World and SAO right now is very much crippled with. When do you think Axel World will end? Impossible to answer question. It's been dragging on for way too long, much like SAO has started doing with both Progressive and Unital Ring. What is your prediction for the upcoming SAO film? Will it take place in the main SAO universe? It will. My expectation is, because it is supposed to be anime original, there are 2 very good potential scenarios. One is just another original game, similar to Ordinal Scale, taking place after Alicization but before Unital Ring. The time span there is a little shorter, but that didn't stop them before. I don't think it will stop them again. Second very good chance is that they can cover the Rebellion of Four Empires. The Rebellion of Four Empires starts off like 6 months after the max acceleration phase began within Underworld. It's basically the populace learning about, well, the Unification Council built by Kirito, Asuna, and the Integrity Knights becoming a known thing, and the four emperors of the four quadrants, Norlangarth North, West Westerath, East Eastavarieth, and South Söderkreuz. The emperors basically rebel against the Axiom Church at that point, legitimizing this because it's technically an act against authority, but they legitimize it by saying, hey, we are bound not to you, Unification Council, we're bound to the Axiom Church, and you are usurping the power of the Pontifex, or whichever adjective you go for Quinella at that point, because Pontifex is technically wrong, but you guys are usurping the power. We are now rebelling against you to liberate the Axiom Church. That's how they legitimize it and basically rebel against Kirito and Co. That is basically a passing memory in Mooncradle, but that sets up the entire rebellion plot that continues all the way into Unital Ring. Mooncradle is not the big event of this rebellion. Mooncradle is a 1 week period of a personal murder mystery. The real event is the Rebellion of the Four Empires, and I kind of do hope the original movie can actually be about that. That would be quite hype. Will we see more SAO Progressive films? Maybe, maybe not. Can't say anything, but I feel like if it comes to adapting Progressive, they will go back to doing like weekly rolling productions because, oh my god, well, movies are objectively better and I still want more movies. I think they know the fact that they just botch the marketing side every single time with the lack of proper global cooperation at that point, and that hurts the brand significantly because people in the US, they didn't know whether Progressive was playing in their theaters or not, and it was playing only for a week, both Progressive movies. People in Europe, most of them didn't even know if their country was going to have it because the licensing scene, Crunchyroll did a terrible job. Can't blame any of them for Aria because COVID, you know, some countries had their cinemas blocked, some didn't, but with Scherzo, there were no more constraints there. And there should have been proper global coordination. Except for the German-speaking room, where there were significant legal troubles between Peppermint Anime and Sony, so that was unavoidable, but that's an entirely different point. The answer is, I don't think they will opt in for Progressive films. If they do more Progressive, they're gonna have a proper adaptation in weekly anime form. Sadly, despite the fact that I prefer films. Do you believe that Demon's Crest will be able to replicate the same success of SAO? I do not know. Kadokawa will want to make it the next success for sure, but I can't answer that. I haven't read the series, I did not experience anything from the series, I don't personally have much faith in Reki, but again, it's all about what the masses think at that point. If Kadokawa does a good job with the anime and does a good job with its marketing, I feel like it has a great chance of becoming mainstream, much like SAO. Will the Isolator ever continue? Ask Reki. By the end, we find the final volume of Axel World. Do you think Reki will establish very deep connection between Axel World and SAO Universe? I feel like the connection will be established at the end of SAO, whenever that will happen, just to pull people into Axel World. What do you think about the upcoming live adaptation of Sword Art Online? I don't think about it. Commander Kirby and a long name asks, do you think if you were in SAO, would you be able to defeat it without beta testing? Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's all about not being an idiot. And a lot of people are actually idiots, and that's very much accurate to reality. I can be an idiot as well, but the moment it turns into a death game, I feel like a majority of people, a significant majority of people, like 70 to 90% of people who would be playing like idiots will actually straighten up their act and start taking a lot of precautions, and I would be in that crowd as well. There's still gonna be like the 10% of idiots who have died early on during that mad rush, although a majority of it was beta testers who trusted their beta knowledge. This is kind of a little story point that is covered in, I think it was the next day story, where Kirito and Argo go for the Revenge of the Cow quest, where Kirito gets that cream to give Asuna later on. It is explicitly mentioned that yes, Kayaba has made specific changes from the beta just to make sure the beta players won't steamroll through the entire game. Don't be surprised if more beta testers die compared to actual newbie players who are playing it carefully. XJam99 asks, why do Kirito's eyes turn yellow? Anime original thing. It used to be when Kirito kind of surpassed the system at first, but then they just broke their own rules, included the yellow eyes when it wasn't required, or not even required, when it didn't even fit, and then didn't even include the yellow eyes when they should have been there based on those rules. So at this point, it's just for eye candy for mainstream crowds to go, oh my god, something cool is happening, because I can't understand something cool is happening without those yellow eyes. And that's genuinely the answer at this point. It has no rhyme or reason. The reason Akiko Kayaba couldn't remember why he created Aincrad. Please stop asking me this, please, please. There are no stupid questions, but go to the scene where he says, sometimes he forgot, and then watch 10 more seconds following that sentence. Please, please. I feel like the translation is kind of giving people the wrong idea there. He's literally saying, sometimes he got so involved, so immersed in the setting, that sometimes even he forgot. That's what he's saying. He doesn't mean it got wiped entirely from his head. He's just saying sometimes he was so in the heat of the moment that he forgot his real core reasons of being there. He didn't care about them anymore. So like, you go over to the fridge and then see something in the oven. Maybe the oven is still running and something is burning. And then you kind of forget that you were going for the fridge. Kind of the same situation. Something else came up and oh my god, he got distracted with other things. Why didn't the time-splitting sword reverse the damage dealt to Bercouli after killing Vecta? Because the time-splitting sword, it does not reverse or fast-forward the time. It just makes sure its slashing movement slashes on the time spot, like I think it was 600 seconds or something, in the past or in the future. That's why, I'm not sure if the anime included it actually, he was counting the seconds and trying to stall a subtilizer at that point, Vecta at that point actually, to make sure to know where Vecta was like 600 seconds ago so he could land that final slice. That's a critical thing. It does not reverse or fast forward the time, no. Okay, so that's the end of part 2 of the Q&A. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I will be continuing with your questions, and if you have more questions to ask, please go over to my Twitter or Facebook, scroll down a bit. I'm also reposting it regularly on Twitter, so it may be easier to find there, and ask your questions there. I'm sorting based on time and then going through everything without leaving anything behind, as long as the question requires a little bit more depth to explain. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoy this, and I will see you all in the next one. Until then, stay cool.